What is up, Flockers? That is my fellow lockers and aspiring lockers. Today's video we're going to be talking about some things that you might want to consider before starting your Microloc journey so that you can start off on the best foot possible. So if you're interested in that, then stick around. The very first thing on the list of things that you want to consider and make sure that you do when starting your Microloc journey is make sure that you are starting with a healthy base. Now, what does that mean? It means that your hair comes from within. It comes from out of your scalp. And so it is important that you have a healthy scalp and a foundation when you are starting your locks. If you're someone like me who has extreme severe seborrheic dermatitis or dandruff or other type of scalp issues or conditions, these are things that it's not that you have to do it before you start your lock journey, but you're better off suited if you can get your seborrheic dermatitis or your dandruff under control before you start your lock journey. Because once you do start your lock journey and you have these sections where you can't separate it strand by strand to get in there and get out patches of dandruff and stuff, it's going to be a lot harder later on to deal with those issues and to address those issues than if you do it while you are still loose natural or your hair is loose. So make sure that you start with a strong, healthy scalp and foundation. And also tied into that one is making sure that the hair that you start with is healthy. There is this misconception that if your hair is just gone to junk and you don't know what to do with it at this point and it's breaking off and all this stuff, well, just lock it up. Now that may work for some because yes, when you're putting all these hairs together and they're not having to fend for themselves, they are stronger when they're in a group and can withstand more and grow longer and have longer retention and things like that. But it is important to know that it is not as simple as just, oh, well, if my hair is breaking off and if it's damaged and messed up, let me just lock it. Again, that may work for some people, but for a lot of people, it's probably not going to work. And if you start your locks damaged, they're going to continue being damaged even when they're in their locked form. So it's important that you start from within, that your hair is healthy when it's growing out of your scalp, and that you start with healthy hair that you're going to start this lock journey with. Locks is a hairstyle, and it is one that is meant to be maintained. Well, if you choose to maintain and keep it up, but it is not meant to start with damaged hair in just hopes that you can just let it be and that your hair is magically going to heal itself when it's in the locks. The second piece of advice that I would give you that you might want to take into consideration before you start your lock journey is that you probably want to go ahead and dye your hair before you do your installation. I just recently dyed my hair back black. Before that, when I hit my 1 year mark, I bleached my hair, bleached the ends and did like an ombre look. So I'm not saying that you can't dye your hair or bleach your hair into your journey. But one of the things that you don't want to do too much in the beginning of your journey, whether that's weeks into, months into, or the first year or so into, is that you don't want to manipulate and mess with your locks too much while they are trying to form, while they're trying to solidify and trying to lock. And the way that you do that is by prepping your hair beforehand. And if you know that you're going to want color and you're itching for color, you're someone who just wants color, you don't want the natural color that's in your hair, whatever color is in your hair currently, go ahead and get that done a week or 2 weeks or a few weeks before you get your actual installation, so that way it can already be handled and then you don't have to wait a year or however long your loctician or your sister loctician tells you to wait before coloring your hair. Because honestly, when you do put color into your hair, because they're locked and it's a lot of hairs bunched together, it's a lot harder to rinse out products like bleach and dye, and it takes a lot longer and it takes a lot more water. You got to be in the shower for probably triple the amount of time that you would when your hair is loose natural. So you want to eliminate any type of things like that may, especially with bleach, because when you have bleaching, you don't need to be leaving bleach sitting in your hair and not rinsing it all out. So if you're going to want to bleach your hair, go ahead and have that done professionally, or if you know how to do it well yourself and you want to take that risk, go ahead and do that, like I said, a couple of weeks before you get your installation done so that you can start off having the best journey possible from day one. Another tip that I would give you that you might want to consider before going in, especially if you're not doing it yourself but you're going in to see a loctician or whatnot, is do a little bit of research and know what starter method you want to start with. Do you want to start with 2-strand twists? Do you want to start with comb coils? Do you want to start with Braidlocs? Do you want to start with comb coils? Do you want to start with the instant lock method? Or do you want to start with Interlocks? Now, I just named a whole bunch of different starter methods. The great thing about the starter methods is that even though they're all different, in the end, the product ends up looking identical or indistinguishably identical. So your starter method isn't the most important thing. There are some factors to take into place depending on whether you start with this type and whether it swells more or it swells less, condenses. So if you're interested in that, I do have videos on my page already of the different starter methods, the benefits, the cons to each one, kind of the different points that may or may not convince you or convince you otherwise of going with a certain starter method. So you can check those out after this video. The next tip that I'm going to give you is when you're going in, even if you're doing it yourself, but when you're going in with your loctician, do some research again ahead of time and know what type of parting system you want. Now, do you have to know down to a T? Not necessarily. You can be between two, but it helps when you go in for your consultation. If you already know what you want, you can already communicate what you want. And then of course, if the loctician has a different point of view, then they can express that, tell you the reasons behind it, and then you guys can have that conversation. It's helpful to know what type of parting you want. Do you want brick layered patterning? Do you want diamond parting? Do you want a grid pattern like the Sisterlocks use and like a lot of people that do Microlocs use? Do you want C parting? Like what type of parting do you want? All of these things are good things to research and to know. And I also have a video on different parting styles and the results that you get and the benefits that come with each and maybe some of the cons that come with them. So you can also check that out after this video. And I'll try to be sure to link any of the videos that I'm talking about in the description box so that you can find those easily and access those to watch them later. Another thing that is on my list of things that you may want to consider before going to get your installation is, are you going to do it yourself or are you going to go to a loctician? And also, after your installation, are you going to maintain your locks yourself or are you going to have a loctician maintain them for you? Now, there are benefits to doing it yourself. There are benefits to having someone else do your locks for you. It's a research thing. It's a weighing the pros and cons. I've got videos on that as well. So if you're on the fence, you're not sure, you haven't even thought about that, you can check out the video on that as well. And just an extra little bonus tip is that you want to maintain healthy retie habits. People will go blue in the face on here telling you that you need to stick to a schedule, and I agree with that. Now, do you have to be rigid down to the exact day? It's been exactly 6 weeks down to the day, down to the hour? No, it doesn't have to be that extreme, but it is important to stick to a schedule. If you're flip-flopping and, you know, this retie is after 4 weeks and then you're stretching your next retie for 9 weeks and then the next retie you're trying to do it in 6 weeks and then the next retie you're doing it in 10 weeks, like that's not good for, especially in the beginning. Once you're years into your journey, then there is more flexibility with the schedule, and you know, because your locks are already formed and your hair is trained and it knows what to do for the most part. But in the beginning year or years of your lock journey, it's important to stick to a schedule. One, because just in self-motivation with your locks, because you're not having to do anything to them if you don't want to for the majority of a good month, 6 weeks or 8 week period. It could be easy to just neglect and continue to just put off. So you don't want to get into that mental habit of like, oh, I'll just keep putting it off, because the longer you go past the time that you need to retie, the longer it's going to take, the harder it's going to be to get your parts and everything separated the way that it's supposed to be, and it's just going to make the comeback process a lot more tedious and difficult for you or your loctician. If you got a loctician, it could end up costing you more money because of the extra time and the labor that they're going to have to take to do it. So again, just be mindful of that. Using these tips will help you to be on your way to having a better, healthier, more enjoyable, exciting lock journey. If you found this video helpful, make sure to hit that like button so that I know what type of content you're enjoying, and also hit the subscribe button so that you can join the flock. And before you go anywhere, make sure to check out some of the videos that have popped up on the screen, or go down to that description box and click in there and check out some of those videos. I'll see you later.